Friday nights are really hard. It's in those moments that I feel desperate for a boyfriend. I feel like there's this idea that everyone is having like the best time on Friday nights, and I don't think that's true because I talk to a lot of people who are all like, we have nothing to do on Friday night.
You imagine everyone else is having the best night of their life, and you're just at home like the only person.
Yes. What's up, y'all? Thanks so much for tuning in today. I just want to thank all of you who are over on our Patreon account, who support us, who are like our fam. You basically help this channel continue on. So if you are one of those, thank you so much. And if you would like to join, you're like, hey, I love what this channel is doing. I want to see this channel continue on. Head on over to patreon.com/girldefined, where you can give like $1, $2 per video. And that really does help this channel continue on and do what we're doing.
It's like the engine.
Is nice. I'm like,
yeah, so patrons are like the engine for our channel. Y'all are awesome. Y'all rock. So, anyways, we are going to be talking about not having a boyfriend. We know Valentine's Day is coming up in, that sounds so funny, not having a boyfriend. Valentine's Day is coming up in a couple days, and we know, I remember what it's like to be single on Valentine's Day and to feel like everyone around you is in a relationship, has special plans, is getting the little teddy bear and the little heart candies, and you're like, I am literally the only one. In fact, there was a really interesting season in our life. You remember it. I had been in a serious relationship. This is before either of us were married. And then my relationship...
a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago, like 10 plus years. My relationship ended in a really hard breakup. And then you got in a relationship with a guy that you thought you were going to marry. It wasn't David, it was someone else. And I just remember suddenly it's like the tables turned. I'm the older sister. I was thinking I was about to get married. And then suddenly I'm single. You're in a relationship and you're thinking you're going to marry this guy. And I'm like,
weird.
And I'm like, the older one just like, this is so weird. And I remember it being really hard. And
it was a weird time.
And like, I was in my early 20s and for the first time feeling like, like wrestling with my worth and value because I didn't have that relationship and feeling like my sister's got someone, my friends have someone. And I don't remember if it was around Valentine's Day. I'm sure it was at some point. And it would have been really hard, but
it would have been.
We know. And then the tables turned again and then you broke up and then I got in a relationship. So it's like, we all go through those seasons where we're the one who's not in a relationship. So what do we do in that moment? We know that it can be so hard and that it can be easy to define our worth and value based on that status.
Yeah. Well, and we have heard from you because several of you have made comments like this. One of you said, it seems like I'm the only girl out of all my friends who doesn't have a boyfriend and I feel really left out. And with Valentine's Day and the world exploding with pink and red, it's like, I feel really left out. Another one of you said, why does it feel like my relationship status on social media is neon light telling the world I'm not wanted? See the different ways that we can interpret it, like, I feel left out, I feel like I'm not wanted. Another one of you said, Friday nights are really hard. It's in those moments that I feel desperate for a boyfriend. Friday nights alone, I feel like there's this idea that everyone is having like the best time on Friday nights, and I don't think that's true because I talk to a lot of people who are all like, we have nothing to do on Friday night.
You imagine everyone else is having the best night of their life, and you're just at home like the only person.
Yes,
but it can be hard. It's hard.
It's hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
In fact, there was actually a survey that says this: 70% of the single girls said that they would feel better about themselves if they had a boyfriend or attention from a boy. Yeah. And the truth is that God created romance, God created relationships. So it's a beautiful thing. And desiring that and wanting that isn't a bad thing. So I think I just want to say that because sometimes it feels like I need to get rid of this desire. Not necessarily. It's just a matter of like dealing with that desire rightly so it doesn't like overtake us.
Yeah, so it doesn't overtake you and become your everything to where it's your idol. You're almost worshiping it in the sense that if you don't get that relationship, you cannot be happy. You cannot be fulfilled. You almost feel like you're not a whole person until you have that. And I know those feelings are so real, especially those feelings of loneliness and longing. Like, it is so hard. So what do we do? What do you do if you're watching this right now and you're like, yeah, that's how I'm feeling? Or maybe you're relating to something that you said, something that other girls are feeling, and Valentine's Day is coming up. How do you fight against the lies? Because it's so often the lies of the enemy that tell us that we're not worth something, that we would be more valuable if we had a boyfriend, if we were wanted, right? I mean, that's the lie. And then we believe it, and then we feel desperate, and we feel like we have to get a relationship.
We make compromise oftentimes because of those feelings.
Yeah, we may settle. So here are just a couple truths that have been really helpful for me over the years, back in the day for you, and we just hope that these are helpful for you as you're walking through this in a very real way, especially this week. So truths to remind your heart, because if we don't remind our heart of truths, then we're gonna believe the lies. The world is not feeding us God's truth. So we've got to go back and see what he has to say. So here's something so important for you to understand. Your worth and value is not determined by your relationship status. So if you're on Facebook, I don't think Instagram really has like a relationship status.
I don't, but it's pretty clear if someone's in a relationship.
Well, in their, what is it called? Your description or your...
I mean, just like,
your
like
bio.
Stories, your pictures.
That's true.
All pictures. So if
that's true.
There ain't never a guy, it's like, what?
But you think for like centuries, people weren't proclaiming
True.
online, like, I am in a relationship, I am single.
Yeah.
It's like you weren't declaring it in the same way. So I think even that, there can be a little bit of like pressure, like, oh, my status is single and I don't want it to be single. But we have to remember that our worth, and this is huge, our worth is not based on that status. You are worth the same in God's eyes. If you are a daughter of God, if you've accepted Christ as your Savior, you are in His family. You are adopted as a daughter of Christ, and you have the same worth, the same value that God has given you as His creation, whether you are single, whether you are married, whether you are young, whether you are old, no matter what the world says about you, you have so much worth as a daughter of God, as His creation. And John 1:12 says, but to all who did receive Him, who believed in His name, He gave the right to become children of God. And that's amazing. I mean, He is the creator of the world, and the fact that He would give us an opportunity through Christ to be adopted into His family, that He would call us that daughters, that we would call Him Father, that is precious. Like, there's no guy on this planet that can give you that sort of love, that sort of care, that sort of value and worth. And so don't buy into the lie that that is based on your status. It's not. It's not something you can earn or something that you can get rid of. It's given to you by God. And He says that you're loved and that He cherishes you. And that's huge. That's life-changing if you accept it.
Another truth to remind your heart, especially on the Heart Day, Valentine's Day.
Heart Day.
Lasting satisfaction isn't found in a romantic relationship. Lasting satisfaction isn't found in a romantic relationship. And I like to think of it this way, because for some reason, when we're single, we have this idea that anyone who's in a relationship is happy. But the reality is, that's not true. There are, like, why divorce wouldn't exist if that were the case. Relationships wouldn't end in heartbreak. I mean, think about it. Think how many, like, girls there are where they're like, it's just really hard, or we're not, we're having these issues, or whatever. It's like, relationship does not equal lasting satisfaction. And so I think we need to, like, rid ourselves of that lie.
It's like a myth.
It's like a myth. Yeah. It's like we just think that because the grass is always greener on the other side. So it's like, of course it would be better even to be in an unhappy relationship than to be single. Trust me, I think I would rather much more be single than be in a really bad relationship.
I think that's the 100%. Loneliest place. Yeah.
When you feel like you're supposed to have this person and they're not there for you. So think of Psalm 16:11, which says, you make known to me the path of life. In your presence, there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. So obviously this is talking about God. You make known to me the path of life. In your presence, there is fullness of joy, not partial joy, fullness of joy. And at your right hand are pleasures forevermore. And that's what our heart truly longs for. It's not truly longing for a boyfriend. It's longing for what that boyfriend we want to give to us, or that husband, what they can give to us, that love, that knowing, that satisfaction, that acceptance, that fullness of joy. And God is saying, ultimately, you find that in my presence. You find that in a personal relationship with me. And so if you're like, I really long for this, go to the actual source. You don't even have to go to the temporary thing. Go to God and say, God, I am trusting this promise that I will find fullness of joy in your presence, and that lasting satisfaction, that's where I will find it.
Yeah, and how much more satisfying if you're finding your satisfaction in Christ, in your relationship with Him, than if you get in a relationship. You won't be that desperate girl looking to this guy to meet all of your needs and make you happy. You'll be a content, satisfied, joy-filled girl who's like, now I can enter into a relationship and have that right balance, that right perspective. He's not going to be my everything because I've already got that in God.
That's a way better relationship.
Yeah,
too.
It's going to be so much healthier, so much more Christ-honoring. It's going to be vibrant and just beautiful. So even to prepare for a relationship, I feel like that is the place to start.
Absolutely.
Even in singleness, because that will set you up for so much more success in a relationship. Okay, last thing, truth for your heart. This is huge, and this is so hard to accept. I know for me this was so hard. It's even hard in my current season of life, but God's timing for your love life in particular is perfect and for your own good. Yeah. And that is so hard to accept, because when you want something, and I remember this so bad, seeing you in a relationship, seeing other people like, I want this right now. I feel ready. There are plenty of guys around.
I think I'm awesome. What's the problem?
I feel like I'm a pretty good catch. I mean, what's the problem here, God? And so you feel like you want to take matters into your own hands. I remember this manipulation, trying to force things, trying to really put yourself out there, like, constantly, like, hello, boys. Like, it is so tempting. But what's happening in those moments of manipulation, because I remember feeling this and doing some of this, is that we're not trusting God. We're not saying, okay, God, you have a good plan for my life, for my love life. Your timing is better than my timing. For whatever reason, you don't have me in a relationship right now, and that's okay. As much as I long for that, I'm going to surrender that and trust that you're going to bring a guy, not a guy that I'm just going to settle for, but a guy who's godly, who's going to pursue me in the right ways, a guy who loves you first and foremost. I trust that if you have marriage in my future, if you have a relationship in my future, you're going to bring that in your good timing. And then when you trust and you believe that, you can rest easy. You don't feel so anxious. You don't feel so desperate. It's so true. Believe that truth, that God's timing for your love life, which is different than your friends, than your sisters. God has a tailored story for each one of us. His plan is so good. And we see this in Romans 8:28. Write these scriptures down, rewind and review them because they're huge. They're awesome. It says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. And a lot of people get this verse confused and think like, oh, okay, well, if I love God, he's going to give me all the good things that I want. God's saying, for those who love him, all things work together for good. And that's God's good for us. And sometimes God's good is saying no, or is saying wait, or is saying, yeah, that's a good gift, but this isn't the season for that. And so trusting that God knows and he's working things out for his good purpose. And as his daughters, he wants to give good gifts to his children. He is a generous father, but his timing and how he does it looks very different for each one of us. And so we have to surrender and trust him with that.
That's really hard. I know for me, when I was single and those empty Valentine's days, things like that, really pressing into my relationship with God during those times was so important. And so we want to give you a free devotional to help you do that right now. Like, I would encourage you to start it today. It's a 30-day devotional. And especially when the topic of love and romance is on your mind and those Friday nights are alone and you're seeing all the red in hearts, this 30-day devotional called Reaching Beyond Myself, it's basically just to help you dig deep into your relationship with God, to learn more about this amazing Father that you have, to know how much he loves you, and to really learn how to think beyond yourself, to love and serve those around you. So if you're like, yes, I want to be intentional. I don't just want to give into my emotions and be in a, pity party. I want to be intentional. Just click the link below. You'll just see a free 30-day devotional. Download it. And I would encourage you to start it today. And I promise you that if you are intentional and you are in the presence of God, you're saying, yes, I want to dig into my relationship with God, that things won't seem as depressing as they are, because you'll be able to see things from a little different perspective. So download that and get going on the devotional. I'm always an idiot.
The ending's the hardest.
Feeling worthless because you don't have a boyfriend.
Oh, it's a question. Feeling worthless because you don't have a boyfriend?
Question mark?
That just felt weird as a statement. I was like, wait, is this a question or a statement? What is happening? Like, I'm always leaning. You're always doing the lounge and I'm always doing the lean.
It's really hard to lean forward.
I don't stick around that much. I'm like, this is too long.